Actually, not that deep.
Oh
but
my gosh.
they're so cute.
Hi, I'm Ling and I'm turning my whole apartment into a home art studio. Recently, I've also been making a collection of homewares with my friend Sarah. She makes the most beautiful ceramics and I've been working on fragrances and paintings for it as well. The whole thing is inspired by my Chinese and her Korean heritage, and I have shared some videos about it which I'll link now. There's a whole playlist on my channel in case you need to see the early inspiration first. I think the black tea is just a really clean scent.
Yeah, it's also very familiar.
When you look at the Chinese buildings and they literally
and they even have it like along the edges of some of the temples.
Yeah, it's stunning. I think even that inner design is beautiful. In case you haven't seen those videos, Sarah lives in London and I live in Sydney, but she was able to travel to Australia a few months ago and we got to look at everything that we've created so far. Since then, we decided to set a launch date for the brand. It's very aspirational, but we're hoping to have some things ready by the end of the year. It's currently the beginning of June, so that gives us 6 months. Since we set that date, I think we've actually had so much momentum. Sarah went back to London and started an intensive glaze making course, and I was able to travel to Japan. I got to see so many art galleries and kilns and found so much inspiration, and we've also started calling every single week so that we can keep working on everything together. There are so many things that we have in mind, so I might split this video into different sections, and I really can't wait to share how it all goes. Our homewares collection will eventually include a whole range of pieces. Today we can chat about things like matcha ware in bowls, whisks and spoons, custom fragrances in scented candles, reed diffusers and incense, as well as ideas for paintings and journals. We can also chat about our first plans for colours and packaging design, but today let's start off with an update to the ceramic pieces. One of the best things about creating for this project is that we're spending so much time learning and experimenting. I just spent a few weeks road tripping around Japan with Jace. I have so much to share from this trip and we'll have a few videos about it soon. While I visited so many kilns and art galleries, Sarah was actually taking a glazing course in London. She'll eventually make her own glazes for the ceramics in our collection too, and it has been so interesting to learn more about the whole process of creating them. We stayed near Mount Fuji and the hotel held a tea ceremony while we were there, so I also got the chance to look at a lot of matcha ware. A few months ago, Sarah and I started talking about making matcha bowls for our own collection, and I was really inspired by these bowls that she made for food. These ones have chopstick grooves in them and we usually use them for rice, but I really loved the proportions and the base of this bowl as well, so we started talking about different shapes and designs. I know she's really interested in trying out a more traditional style of foot on the base of the bowl too, and since I got back from Japan, she's already been able to make a few different designs. Like all kiln-fired pottery, those matcha bowls will look so different once they've been fired and glazed, but I already think they're turning into something really nice. I love how smooth the inside of the bowl is, and I also like the spout that she's designed, which I think looks really subtle and soft. We have so many different options for the shape of this bowl, and I think we'll have to wait till they're all glazed and properly compare them together. While Sarah's been making those, I've also been looking into how we can make the matcha bowl into a full set, and I've started looking for ways to source whisks and spoons. We've been thinking about the style that we like and how we can make it a really cohesive set. And I found a type of bamboo that is a lot darker than this. It's all natural and hasn't got any dye, but it's a really rich brown color that I think will go perfectly with the glazes and ceramics in the rest of the set. So we're still finalizing the details on our own branded whisks, but I should be able to show you the first sample in the next few weeks. When Sarah came to Sydney, we were able to test out a whole range of candles that I made for our collection, and we've had a lot of updates to them since then. For the fragrances in this collection, we're planning to make candles and reed diffusers, and all of the scents are linked to China or Korea in some way. They're either inspired by particular places or they're using ingredients that feel really homey and cozy to us. So I think I mentioned in my last update that we've been mixing custom fragrances here in Australia. I've been making them with Jace and with my sister. The only downside of this is that some of the retailers can stop supplying key ingredients that we've been using, and that actually happened again since I filmed my last update. We made a candle that we really liked, and one of the main fragrances was ginger. It was a very fresh and citrusy, spicy ginger, which just worked perfectly for the candle we had in mind. But unfortunately, the store in Australia stopped supplying it. And I'm just really determined to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the long run. I think we need a bit more control over the process if we're going to have these signature scents. And I'm really glad that for the last few months, I've been looking into working with one supplier to create all of our fragrance oils with us. So we originally sent really detailed ideas and a list of fragrances that we have in mind, and that supplier was able to send back a whole bunch of samples recently. They sent around 30 individual ingredients, which I think is great because we're trying to get as close to the natural fragrance as we possibly can. It's actually been such an interesting process because you might have an idea to have a particular ingredient, let's say something like jasmine, but there are so many different variations of that one scent. Jasmine can be really sweet, it can be slightly citrusy, and we really want something very fresh and clean. The type of jasmine you use can also affect how it blends with other ingredients as well. So I've been going through each one and testing them out with our own mixes. Because Sarah lives in London, I'm also planning to make a whole batch of tea light candles to send to her. And last night, Jason and I were also able to make a few larger samples to test out here as well. These probably need a full week to set, but I think they should be dry enough today to at least test the fragrances. Oh my gosh. Okay, this has come out really well. This first candle is a floral and woody fragrance, and I was inspired to make this after visiting the Hanok village in Seoul. We picked flowers that are grown in the area and mixed them with some really deep woods like the buildings there. It's come out perfectly. It's using a honeysuckle and magnolia, and we went for one that's a little bit less sweet, but I think it's still a really nice sweet floral fragrance. So I can let the supplier know what kinds of woods we were mixing it with and hopefully recreate this in our own custom oil. Okay, so this next candle is a jasmine and tea fragrance. We're kind of running out of wax at this point, but this one is really important because it's my favorite in the whole collection. We made one recently and gave it to Sarah to try, and she really loved the balance after burning it for a while at home. I think all of our friends like this one the most as well. So the original one we made is in here. And it's just a really clean, slightly citrusy, fresh jasmine. We're basically trying to replicate what we've already made, but making it with just one supplier. So I'm really keen to see if this one worked out. Oh, it's really nice. It's actually really close to the original one, but I think our original one has a bit more citrus in it, so we might just need to change the balance a bit. But I would definitely say that it's on the right track, and it's blending really well with the jasmine and black tea. So I'm going to just make some notes to go back to them about remixing the oil slightly. They're coming out pretty well so far. The next one is a straight citrus fragrance, and this one has actually been the hardest one to make because I think I just have such a clear vision for what it should smell like. The whole candle is based on Jeju Island, where they grow a lot of citrus fruits, but I've been finding it really difficult to find the perfect one. I think there's something about citrus where it can either smell really earthy and really strong, or sometimes it can just smell quite artificial. I think I've gone through about 30 different tests so far, and there's only been a handful that I really liked. So we originally sent a blossom and a citrus over to this supplier, and they sent back a whole range. Out of about 5, we picked one, and we've made this test candle with it. I really like it, actually. Jace told me this morning when he tried it that he thought it could be more citrusy and maybe a lot stronger, and maybe even mixed with a stronger wood smell as well, because we're trying to capture the feeling of being in a forest with a waterfall. But I think that it's actually quite light and clean, which maybe I prefer. The tricky thing is that everything kind of just comes down to personal preference. So I might keep this one and then make a separate one that's a bit stronger, and we can get our friends to test them out as well. The only thing is that we were really running out of wax, but we used the last bit to test out this new vessel. So this is a bit closer to the shape that we have in mind. It probably won't look exactly like this. It will be a different color and have some really cute customization on it as well. But I love this shape so much. It's a bit more square and it can hold a lot more wax. And we're also going to use a really nice thick wooden wick. We've been talking about ways to keep this design really simple and a bit more minimalist. I think so many products come with a lot of branding and text everywhere, and it can just make a space feel a little bit cluttered, especially for an everyday thing like a candle, which is kind of just in the background. So we've been talking about ways to keep it a bit cleaner. We were thinking that the label could go on the base of the candle jar. There's a really wide area for it, and that way we could keep the other sides completely clean. I've also started thinking more about the packaging to go with this, and this week I would really like to focus on the labeling and also the candle box design. My sister actually does art and graphic design, so we've been talking about everything a lot. She had a really nice idea for the box to have some kind of illustration, maybe similar to a stamp, so that you can get an idea of the fragrance inside. We are eventually planning to have 8 fragrances because it's such an auspicious number, and I think it would be really nice if you weren't just relying on text to know about the fragrance, and maybe it could have its own little scene or line art to go with it. This could also go at the bottom of the candle on the label as well, and we'd be able to use it for the reed diffusers, which will have the same scents too. So this week I'm just going to start by mocking up with some really simple sketches, and then I can ask for Yuling's help to turn them into proper designs for the packaging. We're starting to think about the packaging for every type of product, and each of the ceramics will probably need its own box so it can be protected while it's being shipped. And we've also started thinking about maybe having some kind of drawstring bag for any of the really big ceramic pieces, or if anything's bundled into a set. I've started looking into places that we can source recycled cotton from, and I have this idea to include some kind of Korean or Chinese knot in the drawstring as well, but I'm still looking into what's actually practical and what we can do by the end of the year. In my last video about the collection, I mentioned that we really want to include reed diffusers, and I've been looking into ways to make them more permanent. So instead of having a single-use product that gets thrown away when the oil runs out, I'd really love for our vessels to be refillable, and ideally they'd be beautiful objects that people want to keep in their homes. So we've been thinking about the design of the bottle and also how to make refill sets. This week I've been looking a lot more into porcelain, which has such a long history in China, and we've been thinking a lot about the colours and the design. The reed sticks that we've picked have a really nice dark brown, which I think will go with our matcha whisks and spoons and a lot of the glazes in the collection. And we can also start looking into the colour of the vessel itself. So Pantone actually has something on their website where you can basically just search for any colour, and I've been pulling together a few swatches for creams and browns. I don't want the vessel to be too pink or too yellow because I think it should blend into any home really easily. And there are a few that I've found that could be a good match for the brand. I actually really like this colour called Egret. I'm just trying to decide whether I'm attached to it because it's the bird that you see in so many paintings, or if it's really just a good neutral colour. So I'm going to keep designing the reed diffusers, and I might be able to show you a sample in one of the next videos. But in the meantime, there are so many other things that I'm working on. One of them is incense, which I'm really excited about. So last time Sarah visited, we designed a whole bunch of incense holders, and when she went back to London, she was able to test them out. I think they're coming out so beautifully, and I really love the cloud design. So while she's been making these, I've been thinking about fragrances that could work with our brand. There's so many different options to choose from, and it could go any way, but I think something that would fit in really nicely is a floral incense. I'm thinking something like orchid or iris, and in the next few weeks I'll be able to test them out. The sun is starting to go down really quickly now, so we probably only have time for one more update, but I've been planning to make a journal for so many years. I have a really clear idea in mind of a prompt journal, which I want to make for anyone who wants more space for creativity. I've thought about it for so long, and I already have a name in mind for it too, but I don't think it's going to be realistic to make that in time for our launch at the end of the year. There's a lot of work that still needs to go into making a prompt journal, so I think it might be more achievable to design a notebook first, which is something that I use nearly every single day. Journaling has helped me to clarify a lot of ideas and to make decisions, and I think it would be great to start with a blank journal that can be used for anything. I'm thinking of making one with my painting of irises and the moon on the cover. This painting was made with the same idea of protecting the energy that you have for creative things, and I think it could be a good place to make space for ideas. I'm going to research how to make a journal like this, and we'll see if it's something I can get ready in time for the launch. But until then, I'll leave a link below to the prints of this painting. We have around 6 months until Sarah's next trip to Australia, which gives us some time to bring everything together. We'll need to design a logo and stamps for all of the pieces, then choose our colours and design our branding. Once we have all of our items together, we'll be photographing everything, designing a website, setting up our online store, and maybe even thinking about a launch somewhere in person. We also need to think about everything from packaging to shipping, but we are slowly working through it all. I think there's something so nice about this part of the creative process where we're taking so many individual ideas and turning them into something cohesive and tangible. I feel like setting a date for the launch is a really simple source of momentum, even if it's just an ideal for now. The date itself isn't super important, and honestly nothing will happen if we can't do it by the end of the year, but I know that there's one thing that helps with anything creative, and that is reducing the time between having an idea and taking action on it. That way an idea doesn't stay as something that we might start one day for very long, and instead it turns into something that we can try to make happen now. It feels like there's still a long way to go until we have everything ready, but I'm really enjoying this feeling of inspiration and determination. At the start of this year, I said that I was going to become an artist, and I feel like it's all coming together. If you've watched this, thank you so much for spending time here. I'll be able to share more progress on the homewares collection very soon, but in the meantime, I hope it's just been a good place to unwind.